What's up, everybody? I am AW, and welcome to my Learn to Play RPG series. In this very long series, potentially finishing on my dying day, is to help the viewers, that's you, on how to play any and all, whatever I feel like doing or requested by you, tabletop role-playing games. Each episode will dumb down on specific parts of how the game plays. Episodes will consist of creating your character, learning the game mechanics, and of course, a small example on how it all fit together in a scenario made by me. To start off, I'll be going over the one, the only, be quite heresy if I do not go over it, as my first video, Dungeons & Dragons, or D&D, which is known by all. I'll be going over the 5th edition rules. Please note that everything I mentioned will be from the core rulebook itself, or the player's handbook if anyone wants to be more precise. So let's begin with the basics. First off, to begin your would-be adventures in D&D, you would need the following things. 1. The rulebook. This will go in detail on where to begin, choosing a race, class, what equipment you'll be using, combat and spells, etc. A character sheet. This will be what your character will be recorded on. This rather simple piece of paper will help you keep your character up to date as you level up. Paper and pencil with a large amount of erasers. You'll be erasing a lot, so I recommend you keep on using erasers. Duh. There are also PDFs online, so you can if you want to just type it all in, you can do that. I do it too, just because it's just a waste sometimes using so much paper. Set of dice, you can get this from any game store, or you can go online, such as Amazon, etc., etc. Each set of dice should have at least one 20-sided dice, 12-sided dice, 10-sided dice, 8-sided dice, 6-sided dice, and a 4-sided dice. These will be your weapons, interactions with players, your gift from the gods, or curse, depending on who rolls the most natural ones. Lastly, and possibly the most important thing, friends. A group between 4 or 6 players and one game master or dungeon master is preferable. This is where you can discuss or schedule a day, place, and time for your first session and character creation. Most sessions can last for a total of 3 to 6 hours, so prepare accordingly and debate who's going to buy the pizza or whatever snacks you decide to munch on. I'm not going to judge you. With all the requirements met, you're ready to start the first step, character creation. The first step varies between Dungeon Master's preference. This is, of course, going to be to roll in your characteristics. There are 6 characteristics in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, along with the other editions. Strength, this will help you with how much weight you can carry and how hard you are able to hit with a weapon. Melee fighters such as barbarians and fighters who really want to be proficient or stronger with melee combat should focus on this. Dexterity is how quick you are and helps you with your initiative order. The higher the dexterity, the more likely you will be going first. Rogues and range fighters prefer dexterity because rogues are the quick and sneaky stabby players. Rangers usually are ranged fighters using a bow, so your dexterity will help you be more likely for you to hit a ranged target with a higher dexterity. Constitution determines your health points, or HP for short, based on your characteristic bonus. This also helps with resisting poisons and any physical ailments. Most tanks, paladins, or fighters who are based on tanking will focus on this due to being the punching bag of the group, and said bosses who will hit like a truck, they would want them to hit the tank with the highest constitution. Obvious reasons. Intelligence is how smart your character is. In my opinion, this is just book smart. Most intelligence checks will be knowledge on your enemies, their weaknesses, the land you are in, the history of it, how the locals react to you, as well as religion. Say that you pick up a religious artifact, you make an intelligence check, you roll high enough, you'll be able to figure what the hell it is. Wizards benefit from using intelligence because their spells are based off their intelligence scores. The next 3, I will be naming one example of a class that uses this characteristic for their spells. At first level, based on your intelligence bonus, you add a number of languages you also know. Meaning that if you had a intelligence bonus of 3, at first level you learn 3 more languages for your character. This is based on intelligence. Wisdom, how wise you are, and helps you be more aware of your surroundings. Perception rolls, or seeing around for danger, they use wisdom modifiers to help your character out. Divine spellcasters such as clerics use this as their main characteristic because wisdom, I don't know. Charisma, in my opinion, is the most powerful of the role-playing aspects compared to intelligence and wisdom. This is how well you are able to socialize with NPCs or non-playable characters, such as diplomacy, intimidation, and, of course, majority of people's favorites, lying your ass off to get out of bad situations. That brings the most humor in most campaigns, trust me. Sorcerers use this as their main characteristic because their spells are based off charisma bonuses. Now, that is explained, let us get to your characteristics. There are 2 different ways that the book shares that you can get your characteristics. First one is to roll your characteristics, the other one is point buy. Rolling your characteristics is the most common way used by dungeon masters or DMs. I'm going to say DMs from now on because I don't feel like saying dungeon masters throughout this entire video. As it is... So, where was I? Oh yes, rolling your characteristics. This is pretty much the roll of the dice determines your characteristics. Personally, for myself, along with other GMs that I've seen, they tell their players to roll 4 6-sided dice and cancel out the lowest number. For example, I rolled a 6, 4, 3, and a 1. I would add the highest numbers, but cancel out the 1, which will make a total of 13. You would do this a total of 6 times. Once you have this completed, you would allocate where each number would go for your characteristics. The second way is point buy. As the name suggests, you will give a certain amount of points to allocate to your characteristics. The generic number of points you are allowed based on the core rulebook is 27. To do this, each characteristics will start at 8. You will then put points in said stat to make it higher. Please note the higher you go, the more points will cost, because why not? It makes things fair. So from 8 all the way to 13, that will be 5 points. However, if you want to go from 8 to 14, that will cost you 7. 8 to 15, that will cost you 9. The highest your characteristics can go is to 15. You allocate how many points go to what, and that will be your characteristic for your character. This method is safer in my opinion if you are afraid your dice will curse you and give you the worst stats imaginable. If you still want to do the rolling aspect of it, I usually like having my players roll their characteristics 2 different times, so they will be able to have the choice between this list or this list that they rolled. Makes things fair. I should explain your characteristic bonuses for your character, though. Characteristic bonus helps you to hit, be it with spells, weapons. It also helps with your initiative, as well as extra hit points you gain per level, etc., etc. So, for instance, initiative is based off your dexterity modifier, extra hit points is based off your constitution modifier, and to help you hit with a melee weapon is strength modifier. To determine your characteristic bonus is a chart that shares this. From 10 to 11, your characteristic bonus will be 0. Every 2 added to your characteristic goes up by 1. So, for example, if you had a characteristic like wisdom will be from 12 to 13, that'll give you a +1. If your charisma is between 18 and 19, you'll get a +4. So it just goes up by every 2. You also can have a negative bonus to your character, which you don't want. So for instance, 8 and 9 is -1, and 6 to 7 is -2. On your character sheet, below the square where your characteristic is, that little circle there, this is where you'll write your characteristic bonus. Right, now let us move on to the next step as I ranted a little more than I wanted to on characteristics. Granted, they were important. Right. Oh yes, selecting a race. In D&D 5th edition, you have a select number of races to choose from, each having its own benefit to them. I'll go over the races from the player's handbook, but the other books themselves have different races, so go ahead and find what interests you. Google, make your own race, or look up homebrew stuff that people have made during time. Races to choose from are from dwarves, elves, halflings, humans, dragonborn, gnomes, half-elves, half-orcs, and tieflings. I will go over the first two races as examples of how they are different from one another. First choice is the 4 to 5 foot stouty and stubborn dwarf. Dwarves will give you a +2 to your constitution. You will have a regular walking speed of 25 feet, and you have dark vision, which means that you are, of course, you're able to see in the dark. So, fun fact, when you're seeing in dark vision, you see everything in black and white. So you don't see really colors or anything, you just see black and white when you're in darkness. An advantage roll, you also get an advantage roll against poisons and resistance against poison damage. Advantage roll means that you roll twice and you choose the highest. A disadvantage is the opposite. They are also proficient with battle axes, hand axes, warhammers, and throwing hammers. You would then choose a sub-race of a dwarf, that being a hill dwarf or mountain dwarf. Elves, on the other hand, give you a +2 to dexterity. By the way, this is a permanent increase to your characteristic. You will also get dark vision, and you'll be proficient with perception, meaning you get a bonus or advantage. They also have trance. Trance means that elves don't sleep. They meditate for 4 hours, in-game hours, by the way, and will have the same benefits as if they were sleeping for 8 hours. Sub-races will include High Elf, Wood Elf, or Dark Elf. Classes, we'll move on next to classes. They are your generic job in the campaign. Pick a class that fits your playstyle. However, while you level up, you can multi-class instead of staying with just one class. So you can choose a barbarian and be a cleric at the same time, as long as you meet the requirements. So majority of the classes, you have to have at least a 13 and a certain characteristic to be said class. There are 12 classes in the core book. Barbarian, a bard, cleric, druid, fighter, monk, paladin, ranger, rogue, sorcerer, warlock, and wizard. There are many other classes made up, so if none of these catch your interest, I'm sure you would find a homebrew on the internet that fits your playstyle. Each class will be different from one another. Each class will determine your HP. For example, a barbarian at level 1 will automatically have 12 hit points, while as a wizard, being the glass cannon and a ranged fighter, he will only have 6 hit points maximum. At every other level, they would roll a certain amount. For instance, the barbarian would roll a d12 for more hit points, and the wizard would roll a d6. This is all based on a chart in the core rulebook. Each class has a primary ability listed, as well as your saving throw proficiencies. Saving throw proficiencies are bonuses to rolls that the GM has you roll to avoid damage or resist whatever. For example, dexterity saving throws would help you dodge out of the way of a fireball. Granted, unless you are a rogue with evasion, you would not really avoid damage entirely. You will just half of whatever you rolled, as long as you can succeed at a dexterity saving throw. Or you're about to be controlled by a lich. You would roll a wisdom save. Every character is allowed to roll a saving throw, but certain classes make you better at it than said other class. Each class gives you a chart at what you are proficient with, such as weapons, etc. Each class has a proficiency bonus of +2 at first level. So, for instance, if your class says you're proficient with a dagger, you will get a +2 bonus along with your strength modifier or dex modifier, because a dagger is a quick weapon in melee. But if you are not proficient with say, an axe, you will just have your characteristic modifier strength with it. You would not add your proficiency bonus. For equipment, each class and background gives you a certain amount of equipment you are given or choice between A and B. Each melee weapon shows how much damage it does after you hit, and certain special traits for said equipment. You would likely get armor based on the class you choose. Ah, yes, forgot about that one. Armor class, or AC in the character sheet. This is what needs to be rolled or higher for your character to be hit by a spell, weapon, or whatever the DM says. Each character, no matter what, without armor has an AC of 10 because of your skin and all that stuff, yada yada yada. You also add your dexterity modifier and the armor you are wearing, plus a shield if you are using one. Note, depending on what type of armor you have, light, medium, or heavy to be exact, you can only add a specific number of your dexterity modifier. Light armor has no limits, so you can add, if you have a dexterity modifier of 5, you can add that to it. Medium armor allows you to add a maximum of 2 from your dexterity modifier. Heavy armor, being heavy and making you not move as fast, will not give you a dexterity modifier. Now, certain occasions in the rules, this will take away, and where your basic armor can actually give you more dexterity modifier. But just remember, I am going over the basic rules for you to know and how to play this game. Lastly, I will go over the basics of your background. Now, background is just a personality for your character, as well as giving you more items and perks to your character in a role-playing aspect, such as people you know, contacts, you're proficient in skills, extra languages, etc., etc. In the core rulebook, you can choose from an acolyte, a charlatan, a criminal, entertainer, folk hero, guild artisan, hermit, noble, outlander, sage, sailor, soldier, and an urchin. If you choose a soldier, you will be proficient in athletics and intimidation as your skills. You can choose one type of gaming set, like cards or a dice game. And you are also proficient with land vehicles like carts. Equipment wise, you get an insignia for rank because you were military related. You're a soldier, so you have a rank, be it in a militia or a standing professional army. You also have a trophy from a fallen enemy, like a dagger from someone trying to stab you, or a banner that you got from somebody because they were standard bearer. You get common clothes, because important, and a belt pouch containing 10 gold pieces. If you have trouble thinking of how your player can play as, the book gives you examples to roll on how your character can play as. Flaws, ideals, personality, etc. Well, yeah, one more thing, and this is probably the most difficult thing people can understand, because everybody has a different opinion on this, and everyone can say have a different view on one thing compared to person B. Alignment. So, what are alignments? This shows if a character is good or evil, lawful or chaotic in nature. Me personally, in my games, I do not use alignment. I believe that being good and evil can vary from a person's perspective of the world. An evil act to one person could be a good act to another person. It is all based on how you play your character and how the laws and the rules and how the world itself will react to it. But I'm going over the rules in the basic core book on character creation, so these are my personal views on how I can describe it to you, but everybody has a different translation to it. So, without further ado, if you have a different opinion from what I said about the alignment, please leave a message or a comment. Lawful good. This is doing the right thing as the law suggests. Like, I don't know, like lawfully not killing a person, doing the right thing because by law you're supposed to. Being a goody two-shoes. Paladins are mostly known being lawful good. Neutral good is an individual doing good deeds for their own desire. Like, I would just walk down the street, I see a prisoner right there, and I just give him water just because it is the right thing for me to do. It'll make me feel good. Neutral good, nope, sorry, chaotic evil is doing something based on immediate instinct despite what others would say about it. The greatest example, of course, is Robin Hood. He does a good deed, granted, breaking the law by stealing from the rich, but he gives it to the poor. That's what chaotic good can be. Lawful neutral is a personal code of honor or acting as the law mandates you. So you're following the law, you're doing everything right, you're not going well and above and beyond as a lawful good character would do. Chaotic neutral is pretty much doing whatever the hell you want by following your own rules. You are the master of you and no one else. A true neutral character is not taking a side on an issue and do what is best for you right at that moment. Lawful evil, to me, this is more of the Inquisition from the Crusade era. They do evil things, but follow the law. Executioners, witch hunters have done evil deeds in the past, but they had a legislation to follow. They had a law to mandate what they had to do. They don't kill for their own needs. They kill because it's the law, because it's their job, and this is what the law tells them to do. You follow the code of law. Neutral evils believe you can get away with anything that you do with little or no regret. Chaotic evil is doing evil deeds by instinct. For example, you see a lovely couple, a man and a woman, or whatever your preference is, holding hands because they are married. So, the chaotic evil character walks to them in an alley and does the same thing that he would do to every other couple. Cut their fucking hand off and stab Joe Schmo while Daisy Duke watches, or what I would do, run the hell away because that crazy chaotic evil individual cut my hand off and started to brutally murder my husband in front of me for no reason. Chaotic evil characters do what they want, when they want to, and where. No quarrel with the law, just by instinct. And with that, I will conclude with this video. In the future, I will talk about how the game mechanics work in D&D 5th edition, such as combat and the role-playing, then an example of how it is all put together. If you enjoyed this video, click the like button, and if for any reason you want to watch my future videos, well, click the subscribe button for future content. I won't just be doing Dungeons & Dragons. I will be doing multiple games like the Warhammer 40k series, Call of Cthulhu, Pathfinder, and many more that people can suggest to me or whatever I feel like the hell I'm doing. If you never played Dungeons & Dragons before and you wish to be in a quick 3 to 4 session tutorial campaign, click on the link to my Discord channel and see how you can be part of a group of 6 people. I will personally give you the core rulebook for free for playing in my session, and it will be streamed in the future, as this will be your introduction into role-playing. Doesn't matter what level of experience you have, just join in. Thank you all for your interest in my channel, and I hope to see you all around my role-playing table in the near future. Stay awesome.